News!
Stephanie Silva, Jasmine Artiga, I want all of you. Stephanie Silva, Jasmine Artiga, I want all of you.
That was unbeaten up-and-comer from the city of Philadelphia, Lyanna Cruz, a fighter who's campaigned anywhere as low as flyweight to as high as featherweight.
Calling out Jasmine Artiga, another unbeaten up-and-comer like herself.
Lyanna Cruz stated via her Instagram account, "When you claim everybody's scared of you, but I've been calling you out for months. Animal boxing, 2 belts on the line with a full camp. Why won't you take the fight? Oh, right. You know you can't beat me. Somebody at this, John, since I can't mention her." To which Jasmine Artiga responded, "So this little girl from Philly was offered and sent a Matchroom fight contract last year by my manager, Peter Kahn. Her team turned it down, but now she is ready to fight in her hometown on her manager's small promotion with her judges. When is she gonna realize I'm the A-side? We can do it in Orlando. I don't play high school games." Jasmine Artiga, a fighter who's fought as low as flyweight to as high as bantamweight, responding to Lyanna Cruz. Lyanna sports a professional record of 8 wins with no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, not yet.
What's interesting?
Jasmine Artiga says that the fight was already offered to Lyanna last year, that they could have fought on a Matchroom show on the DAZN platform, but the offer was rejected. It was turned down. Is that true?
That's what Jasmine says.
Jasmine Artiga, who sports a professional record of 12 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 6 knockouts. Certainly more experienced fighter with more fights and more rounds in the bank than Lyanna Cruz, but it's Lyanna that's calling for the fight.
Interesting.
That Jasmine says they were offered a slot on a Matchroom show, even though neither fighter is a Matchroom fighter. Neither Lyanna Cruz or Jasmine Artiga have a contract with Matchroom or fight under that banner. I guess it would have been another situation like the upcoming Ruiz versus Fuchs situation.
Huh?
The fight we talked about in a previous video, the upcoming fight between Adelaida Ruiz and Virginia Fuchs, neither one of those fighters have a contract with Matchroom, yet Matchroom is still affording them an opportunity, a slot on one of their shows.
It would seem that they endeavored to put together a similar fight in a similar situation last year between Lyanna Cruz and Jasmine Artiga. Jasmine Artiga, who last saw action in February of this year opposite the ring Nancy Franco.
A common opponent between them.
Jasmine fought Nancy back in February, and Lyanna fought Nancy in May.
Lyanna seems to have a fight on the books. Fight coming up in September, an 8-rounder against an opponent that has yet to be announced. I don't think it's going to be Jasmine Artiga.
So neither fighter has much of an amateur background.
Both are unbeaten up-and-comers at the lower weights, anywhere in between flyweight and bantam or super bantam, as both seem to fluctuate in weight from one fight to the next,
battling for leverage over the other.
Jasmine Artiga says she's the A-side over Lyanna Cruz, and she's not going to fight her in some shoebox, some hole in the wall in Philadelphia on Lyanna's manager show.
His promotion.
I've seen both fighters in action. They're very good, the both of them. Exciting, interesting characters. Lyanna Cruz, very fiery spirit, fiery girl.
Jasmine, strong, capable.
It will take a fight between them to separate them, to determine who's better. That doesn't look to be happening at this time. Lyanna Cruz will face someone else late next month on the 28th, but she's letting it be known. She wants that Jasmine Artiga fight. She's gunning for it.
And that's the skinny.
In men's featherweight news, newly crowned WBA featherweight champion Nick Ball is in the process of finalizing an October 5th title defense versus Ronnie Rios.
I thought Ronnie was supposed to be fighting Stephen Fulton.
Nick Ball and Ronnie Rios are in the process of finalizing a deal for a WBA featherweight title fight on October 5th in Liverpool, England, sources tell ESPN. Ball's first featherweight title defense will be a homecoming fight. Fights out of Liverpool, where he was born. Ball, 20 wins with no losses and 1 draw, 11 knockouts, scored a split decision victory over Raymond Ford, then WBA champion in June, over in Riyadh, to win the title in thrilling fashion. The win followed Ball's first challenge, a split decision draw to Ray Vargas in March of this year. Also in Riyadh, Ball floored Vargas twice in that bout. 27 years old, Ball is ESPN's number 5 featherweight. Rios, 34 wins with 4 losses and 17 knockouts, is unranked. The 34-year-old from Southern California is coming off a 5th-round KO of Nicolas Polanco in April. Rios' previous fight was a 12th-round TKO loss to former champion Muradjan Akhmadaliev at 122 in a June 2022 challenge for 122-pound titles.
That fight was at 122. This fight is at 126.
Nick Ball getting a homecoming fight doesn't surprise me given the run that he's been on. And I think he's earned it, I do. A former champion in Isaac Dogboe, then a current champion in Ray Vargas, then another champion in Raymond Ford. He deserves it. He's earned it. He's earned a breather, a chance to take it easy before taking on a more serious challenge, a more serious opponent again. There are 4 champions in the featherweight division here today. Nick is just one of them.
One among them.
Things are shaking, rattling, and rolling in the men's featherweight division when you consider that this past weekend, this last Saturday, the title changed hands. The IBF title changed hands from then champion Luis Lopez to Angelo Leo, who knocked him out, who stopped him with a counter left hook from right out of the devil's ass. I'm not broken up about it because in spite of Luis Lopez being an exciting action fighter in his own right, I didn't get the sense that this guy was trying to unify. I didn't get the sense that Luis was trying to consolidate the alphabet titles in the featherweight division. He reigned as a champion for a while. Won the IBF title from Josh Warrington in late 2022 in December, and he successfully defended the title 3 times afterwards, but I didn't get the sense this guy was trying to unify.
So when a title ends up changing hands, going to Angelo Leo by way of a vicious knockout, I'm not broken up about it. Hell, I'm excited because maybe Angelo Leo will want to unify where Luis did not.
Unify with Nick Ball. Nick Ball, who's now reported to be facing Ronnie Rios in the interim in a homecoming fight. So, Ronnie Rios...
Well, Nick Ball is going to be fighting.
He's got 4 professional losses, and 3 of them were by way of knockout. He was stopped by Avzat Havanesian, Crazy A. You might be familiar with that name. He was stopped by Muradjan Akhmadaliev.
At 122?
The fight with Nick is up there at 126. And up until this point, the name of Ronnie Rios was tied to another fight with another fighter, a former champion in Stephen Fulton.
Preliminary reports indicated that he would be facing Stephen this month on the 13th. Needless to say, that's not happening.
That was intended to be the PBC's inaugural non-pay-per-view show on the Amazon Prime platform, headlined by Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumbee. We now know that fight has been rescheduled for the undercard of Canelo versus Berlanga, along with Stephen Fulton's next fight.
Oh, who's Stephen fighting?
Who cares? It's not Ronnie Rios. Ronnie is fighting Nick Ball in a main event. Few specifics and nuances aside, a fight against Nick Ball in the main event is certainly a bigger opportunity and likely pays better than a fight with Stephen Fulton on an undercard.
And don't forget, this is a title fight. There's a title on the line in this fight. There was no title on the line at all in a Stephen Fulton fight. So Ronnie Rios,
he made out all right. He's walking into a bigger opportunity, a bigger fight than a Stephen Fulton fight, and good for him.
he's fighting Nick Ball.
Nick Ball sports professional record of 20 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 11 knockouts. Very vicious fighter, vicious puncher, pressure guy.
Ball.
Last in action in June of this year. He's already seen action 2 times this year. Once in June against Raymond Ford, and before that in March against Ray Vargas. This upcoming Ronnie Rios fight will be the 3rd fight he has this calendar year. He's been keeping busy.
Ball.
So Ronnie Rios has been stopped 3 times throughout his career across different divisions. He got stopped by Robinson Castellanos up there at 130. Then he got stopped by
Crazy A and Muradjan Akhmadaliev at 122. This fight is at 126, and I think Nick can do the same thing. I think Nick Ball can stop him.
Nick's a very aggressive fighter, vicious puncher, throws with bad intentions, and is quite prolific within a round. He's a busy fighter within a round.
Star potential.
You talk about star potential in the featherweight division, and I think that describes Nick Ball a bit better than the other 3 champions at the weight. And they're all good fighters, all of them.
Angelo Leo holding the IBF, Ray Vargas holding the WBC, Rafael Espinoza holding the WBO. They're all great fighters. They're great punchers too. But Nick's got more star power. That is, more of the potential.
He's a Liverpudlian. In a very general sense, we know that the British boxing scene is a very fertile scene where the fans show up and show out. Tack on that Nick is from Liverpool. He's a Liverpudlian.
All the things I've done in my career.
Shout out to Julio. Nick Ball is an action fighter, a fan-friendly fighter, the kind of fighter that belongs on television. So he has all the potential to become a draw, perhaps the biggest draw in the featherweight division, so long as he can stay in the winner's bracket. And opposite the ring, Ronnie Rios, at least with Ronnie, I think he can.
If he tries to unify, that's something else.
It's not a knock on Nick. It's that the champions, the other champions at the weight, are just as formidable as he is. But at the same time, consolidation is needed because I can't even remember the last time I saw a unified champion in the featherweight division. It's been a while.
Al-Sheikh.
So we know that His Excellency, Mr. Turki Al-Sheikh, is doing everything he can to put together the biggest and best fights in the sport of boxing. He's already found good use of Nick Ball on 2 separate occasions. He could find use for him again in some unification matches. I can't stress this enough. For the money you would have spent on Canelo Alvarez or the money you would have spent on Gervonta Davis, you could put together a featherweight tournament with all 4 champions at the weight that would be more cost feasible.
It would be cheaper than paying any one of them.
Not that money is an object, though when you consider that you could offer all 4 of these guys career high purses and still end up spending less than you would have spent on one Canelo Alvarez fight.
Makes things easier to do, doesn't it?
Featherweights don't cost that much money. Featherweights, in a very general sense, don't make that much money. So there's an avenue of opportunity there to put together something major, something big for the featherweight division.
An avenue of opportunity for Nick Ball beyond the Ronnie Rios fight. I think he's going to win that fight. I think he's going to win it by way of knockout. And beyond that, we'll see if they can't consolidate titles at 126.
Finally, TGB Promotions, the promoters who stage most of Heyman's PBC shows, have now reserved November 2nd at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, prompting speculation this could be the date and venue for Gervonta Davis's next fight. He's coming off that win over Frank Martin, that highlight reel knockout. There was a lot of speculation as to what the pay-per-view really did at the box office, accenting the need for Gervonta Davis moving forward to fight brand name opponents.
Not these nondescript guys.
That the numbers for the Frank Martin fight were a far cry from the numbers he put up with Ryan Garcia. In excess of 1 million buys. I knew he wasn't going to do that with Frank. He wasn't going to do half that with Frank.
Yeah, but Ryan didn't do that with Devin in his pay-per-view.
Yeah, but nobody calls Ryan the face of boxing, like they say that about Tank.
Tank is a star emoji maker. Cruz, Rolly, Barrios. Yeah, that's kind of like the Mayweather effect too, right? Like, cause Canelo fights dudes and they ain't turning into stars. Like, he fights you, you're not... Like, Robert Guerrero turned into a name everybody wanted to fight. Floyd established people, I feel like. Look at Maidana, he turned into a star. Whatever you want to call, whatever height he got to in boxing. Canelo didn't really do that. Like, Callum ain't turning nobody, Liam ain't turning nobody, you know, Billy Joe didn't turn to nobody. You know, a lot of these dudes didn't like, Daniel Jacobs didn't become a bigger star after losing. The only one that really got any cachet was Golovkin, Trout. That's really it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking hard enough.
I caught an episode of The Boxing Voice where it was said that Gervonta Davis is a kingmaker, that the fighters that he ends up fighting go on to become stars in their own right. I don't know how thorough they were in that evaluation. When near as I can tell, the guys that he fights, they're undercard fighters, and after he fights them, they're still undercard fighters. I mean, what was Isaac before he fought Gervonta?
An undercard fighter.
That's what he was. That's what he still is. His last fight with Rayo Valenzuela, what was that?
An undercard fight.
On the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov, Rolly Romero. What was Rolly Romero before Gervonta fought him? An undercard fighter. And what's his next fight on? An undercard.
Canelo's undercard.
The fight before that was on an undercard. The fight he had before that, where he got knocked out by Isaac Cruz, another undercard fighter.
Stars generally don't fight on undercards.
If what you're implying is that fighting Gervonta Davis gives their profile a shot in the arm, such a boost, that they become stars in their own right, don't you think they'd be headlining their own shows, their own main events, if they were indeed stars? Or are you trying to redefine what it means to be a star in the sport of boxing.
You're exaggerating.
What's Leo Santa Cruz been up to since he fought Gervonta?
He's a star?
Is Mario Barrios a star? Is he headlining his own shows? Is he doing his own main events? Is he selling out?
Is Hector Luis Garcia?
The common denominator between all of these aforementioned fighters is that they were undercard fighters fighting on undercards before and after they fought Gervonta. So where do you get that he's a kingmaker?
Or that these are stars. Stars don't fight on undercards.
They tried to compare his opponents to the guys that Canelo fought, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders. Those are actually headliners that have headlined their own shows.
Without Canelo.
Fought in main events without Canelo.
Callum Smith? Billy Joe Saunders? Daniel Jacobs?
Dimitri Bivol. After he fought Canelo, he went on to headline his own show in Abu Dhabi opposite the ring, Zerto Ramirez. Later on this year, he's going to headline a show with Artur Beterbiev.
What the hell are you talking about?
Jaime Munguia headlines his own shows. He was headlining his own shows before Canelo fought him, and he's headlining a show later on this year after Canelo fought him. It's Canelo fighting the headliners.
One of these guys Gervonta Davis fought headlines their own shows, their own main events. Which one?
Aside from Ryan Garcia, who was already headlining shows before he fought Gervonta Davis, and he's still headlining shows afterwards.
I think they've got it backwards.
It's all a deliberate effort to gaslight the boxing community at large into thinking that Gervonta Davis is a bigger star than he actually is, when all the reports and all the estimates for Gervonta Davis's last fight with Frank Martin put the buy rate at less than what Canelo Alvarez sold. Less than the Canelo versus Munguia fight. That's reported to have done an estimated 500,000 pay-per-view buys.
Gervonta's fight is reported to have done less than that.
Even the most generous estimates, guesstimates as to what Gervonta Davis's last fight did, don't put the number at 500,000 buys. So when are you guys gonna stop lying to the boxing community, lying to each other, and lying to yourselves?
His next fight.
Canelo's fighting Edgar Berlanga in his next fight, and Gervonta, who knows who he's gonna fight, but who do you think is gonna bring in more numbers at the box office? Canelo with his fight, or Gervonta with his?
We already know who brought in more numbers with the last one. What's the next one gonna do?
His next fight could be against Rayo Valenzuela. It could be.
I don't rule out an Isaac Cruz rematch either.
Because we now know it's not going to be Vasyl Lomachenko. It's not going to be Shakur Stevenson. Shakur's rumored to be facing William Zepeda later this year.
It's not gonna beat him.
Probably going to be Rayo or Isaac. And if it's one of them, what do you think that does at the box office?
What's the point in lying about stuff like this?